Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Chats Unplugged. All right, my name is Yaz, and this is Dawn.
Yours truly.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about a lot of things today, especially some music, some good music coming up for you guys.
Yep. So we're talking about execution, talking about starting off as an independent artist. This is actually our first episode, so this is more like getting to know each other. Me and Dawn go way back. We used to party together. We used to man, like
Oh,
we was outside. We was outside, and now look at us, man. Like we're getting to that point in life where it's time to make our life a movie.
I'm really proud of you for all the stuff you're doing and the music that you're getting into,
Thank
really taking
you.
your wings, spreading them. So I definitely want to get into some the music that you're doing and have some questions for you. But first, I wanted to ask, in this journey, how has music become a part of your daily regimen?
I feel like music has always been something that has gotten me through it all. I've been singing and writing lyrics since I was 10 years old. I used to journal a lot when I was in kindergarten. I did sound like a dying cat as a kid,
Right.
truthfully, but then you kind of develop your voice. And I'm still not like, wow, I'm an amazing singer, but
Right.
definitely like art for me is subjective.
Mm.
So like what may be good to someone is not always
Right.
good to
Everybody.
someone. Yeah, exactly. And I'm very aware of that, but I do feel like I have something to share and I want to make my mark in this world, which is why I'm executing even in a career like this. But yeah.
All right, I think that's very important to, share your work with the world. So, when did you first discover your love for music? I know you said you were making music when you were a child. When was the moment that you really knew this was something you wanted to pursue?
So I was always in theater and drama, kind of the performing arts.
Yeah.
I always gravitated towards that, even though my family was more on the conservative side. Like, they were more like, I always grew up kind of just like brought up to be like, oh, like, this is not something that you can take serious.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not something that they never saw me doing that, but I've always was in like the drama club. I was always like in shows, musicals.
When?
So
High school?
middle school, no matter what, I've always like gravitated. I've just found myself in theater,
Yeah.
and that's something like performing arts has been always something I wanted to do. So like I knew I had a love for it and that this is something I was meant to do since a child. Even when I tried to do things for my career, like I almost finished college for dental hygiene and I dropped out the last semester.
Really?
Now I run a business
Mhm.
with my dad because that's something that we've had. And I had to work with him at some point because it just was going downhill.
I get the gist. Okay. Who are your biggest musical influences and how have they shaped your style in any way?
So I grew up really inspired by Avril Lavigne. I was always into like punky, hip hop,
Mhm.
just Lil Wayne. I was obsessed with Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj. I grew up listening to them since I was young. I grew up in the Lower East Side, like,
The city, yeah.
yeah. But this is the days like, back when like it was
Yeah.
like crackhead central.
Yeah.
And now it's more gentrified. I stood out a little bit. They're like, oh, but then I found my way to fit in because culturally hip hop was the thing, like, oh, you're cool if you listen to hip hop.
Yeah.
Good thing I was just kind of like good at like fitting into where I was. So like Nicki Minaj was my jam. I was always listening to her. I just love strong female leads at the time. She was such a strong female lead and so funny in the way she was so animated. I loved it,
Yeah.
man.
She
Like,
was really popular, especially
yeah.
back in the day
She was one of the only female rappers.
at the time.
Did you grow up listening to her?
I listened to her in social settings. If other people listening to her and I like the song, I'll bump, but it wasn't, I wouldn't pull up my phone and click on Nicki Minaj. I could tolerate her music.
I loved her and Lil Wayne. That was my thing. And then later on, I just came up to be more like I was just more into hip hop and punk. So I'd just be like more in it, like
Punk rock.
yeah, do like a lot of punk rock. I like soft rock and all that.
Sure.
Yes, yes. Loved Pink.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved Pink. And just basically stuff like that. Just things that were kind of grungy.
Yeah. I can see both of those styles in your music, the hip hop aspect, but also the rock, carefree, do what I want. Yes. Kind of
Yes.
get both senses in your music.
Yeah, because I'm still trying to genreize myself right now. It's hard for me to even my stuff is just different. One is more hip hop, one is more poppy. There's something for everyone if you're
Right.
going for my music. I showed you something that was coming out. The song is called Fire Escape, but it's more of like a R&B
Yeah.
mix to it. So, yeah, there's just when you like it just comes down to it being different every time. I'm not going to stick to one thing. I'm going to try to branch out and see what works for me.
So there's no one genre you'd classify your music with.
At this point, no, I can't really classify it because I feel different every day. I
Oh,
feel like I'm a different person every day.
all right. What life experiences have had the biggest impact on your songwriting?
I feel like growing up, moving a lot, and honestly, having to grow up fast
Mm,
and moving out at 17. I would say growing up fast has really made me like have a lot of stuff to your music. When people say character building, that's what I've
yeah.
been doing. And I feel like having to grow up fast has inspired my music a lot because I've gone through so many things already and I'm only 25.
Yeah.
I already have all this wisdom from all the experiences
Experiences.
that I have. So talking to me is like talking to a 35-year-old, which is a good and bad thing. But for me, I'm using it to my advantage right now. So
Right. I do agree. Experience is the best teacher.
it
To
is.
see how you can accumulate so much knowledge in that path. I commend that for you.
Thanks.
I had another question about your creative process. I want to get into how you make your music and art. What's your process for writing a new song? Do you start with lyrics, melody, something else? How do you start it?
The first song that I wrote, which was Unknown, it's on my sweater.
I like the sweater,
Um,
by the way. You should check it out.
yeah, patchwork by me. But so basically, what was the question again?
It was about the process that it takes to write the music. Do you start with lyrics, melodies? How do you go about making your song first?
When I first started actually songwriting, before I would just write lyrics down. I had a whole bunch of lyrics that I wasn't doing nothing about. I just kind of just did it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm actually going to make a song now. So I have this pair of lyrics that I want to use. I had something already written out. Then I started looking at beats to like see what would match my lyrics. So I found this beat that I really liked. And then I found like a melody to work with.
Yeah.
At that point, I wrote the lyrics and found the beat. And then I went to a studio to execute the song and get it mixed and everything. But I will say that my other songs, I had found a beat first and then I wrote the lyrics, which I much recommend because I feel like your rhythm is going to be better when you find lyrics that match that beat.
Okay.
Yeah, because you want everything to kind of mesh well.
Yeah.
So in my first song, I feel like my rhythm wasn't meshing. I wouldn't change anything about my first song. I want it to be imperfect. I got more than what I even expected from my first song. And, I'm very proud of it.
Mm.
At the end, I took notes from that. Now I've learned like,
Yeah.
what I would do better. And I'm moving forward. I'm going to find a beat and
And then,
write yeah, exactly. Yeah.
okay, do you think there's ever a chance where you can find the lyrics first and then the beat after and still make quality music?
It does not have to be within
At
any
least for you.
structure. For me, I think I'm going to follow the second structure
Yeah.
better because that works for me. But I don't believe in one way of learning things. Everyone has their own structure to work with. And I did get the advice of finding a beat first and then doing it.
Okay.
I do see the difference on that. You know what I mean? Because you want to find words that suit well with your beat and you want it to sound right because it's music. At the end of the day, like I have to my lyrics is my most thing that highlights in my song. Like I feel like it's not my voice as much as it is what I'm saying, but I do have to understand that I'm trying to create a sound.
Yeah.
I have to find out what sound really goes well with that beat. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How do you overcome
Oh.
writer's block or creative slumps? Did you
Honestly, I go on a trip.
trip like vacation,
Yeah.
run, jog?
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you're having writer's block and creative blockage, it's because either you're rushing something, like you have a due date and you're trying to force something out of you. It's so hard being a creative and having that pressure because once you have that pressure, it's like you're forcing magic and magic comes whenever it feels like it. It's not something that your body can just get whenever you
Yeah.
want. So that's why it can be really hard for artists when they have all that pressure to recreate the magic that they've done with their past projects. Now they have all this pressure and it can be overwhelming. I would say what really creates magic is your experience in life, like your mindset at the time.
Mhm.
And like, so I would say just seek experiences, be an adventurous spirit, go out, like, like say yes to things, like, because you're creating experiences. And like, let's say like you're having writer's block and you're sitting down trying to do that, go out. I don't know, but like find something
Right. Right.
respectfully, like
Right.
anything that gets you out of the house and away from that paper and just go create some experiences and then come back and then find some creativity
Love
from
it.
that night
Right.
and think about it and relive it and then put it on paper.
Interesting. Cool. Okay. Where do you usually find inspiration for your songs in particular?
So my songs, okay, I'll talk about my first song. My inspiration for Unknown was if you really listen to the lyrics, it's talking about fear of the unknown. That's something I've always struggled with. Like is like my fears, like I've thought about my fears, right?
Mhm.
And something I fear is the unknown. And I now I don't fear it as much.
Mhm.
But before I would have so much anxiety. I'd fear moving out at
Change.
17. Change. I don't like change,
Yeah.
but I forced myself to be in change. I forced myself to leave the house. I forced myself to quit my job. I
Yeah.
forced myself to drop out of college. And all that was me. Like, I was so scared of that. What drove me was fear. I always had this sense of challenging myself. If I fear it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I look at all the times I jumped off the plane and I see where I'm at now. And I'm like, wow, that was the best thing
Right.
I've ever done. Me making that music video, dropping almost 2K, that was a risk. That was my fear of, all that. It's just fear of the unknown, but, just
Right.
do it.
I think that's one of the things that I've admired about you the most, that you put your fear behind you in the pursuit of trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And most people won't do that, you know? So I do see exactly what you're trying to do. And I think that anybody who's listening to your music should be able to see that message as well. So I like what you're doing.
And I really hope that people get inspired by that. Like, don't let fear hold you back. That is so real. This is coming from someone who used to be like I told you, I was like 210 pounds. I had so much anxiety. I could not go up on, like, I couldn't even walk into a classroom because I was scared everyone was going to look at me. You know what I mean? Like, this is someone who was so fearful of everything.
Right.
And now I'm just such a night and day different person.
Mhm.
I don't even recognize that person anymore.
The audio.
If you see a picture of me back then, you're gonna be like, "Who is that?
Right.
Who is that person?" I can't even recognize her. She was going through a lot. We have to talk to ourselves as if we were looking at a child. I feel for her, but she's better now. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I feel like that was important for your music to go through that period of growth.
it was all character development.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
yeah,
Do you prefer to write alone or collaborate with other artists, and why?
I really like collaborating, but when I write, I like to write alone. I like to write alone. But collaborating, I want the other person to have their own creative freedom.
Right.
And we can mix ideas. But when it comes to my writing, I like to be alone.
Is there a particular message that you want your audience to receive from your music? Do you want your audience to be inspired by your music? What exactly are you aiming for your audience to get from your music?
For my audience, I really want to challenge them. Like, I want to challenge their fear because, like, we're living in a society where everyone is not socially
Hmm.
etiquette or sensitive. I know so many creatives who are scared of actually doing anything about it.
Yeah.
I want to challenge them. I want to show my audience, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. Cliche. Yeah.
No, it's real. It's
But
true.
that's real. Like, I'm like, I know that, like, and I want to, like, I really just want to, like, and I also want them to see, like, I'm a genuine person. Like,
Yeah.
how I want to be known for being genuine. I want to show everyone that I don't really care about how I look. This is how I look. I have my insecurities, yeah, like everyone does. But at the end of the day, this is how I look. I don't even want to put too much makeup because I want to show everybody it doesn't matter. You don't have to change yourself. Be who you are, look how you are, and you'll be either loved or hated, but no matter what, this is what you are, this is what you look like. Who cares?
Right.
Just do what you love to do and know that you'll get somewhere one day.
Agree.
Believe in yourself. Be confident in that. And don't care about what your parents think. Don't care about what your friends think. If you know you have that drive in you, it's for a purpose. It's for a reason. The universe gave you that fire. Shine it. Shine, you know?
Yeah.
Don't waste your time. You're going to be 40 years old and be like, oh, I should have done this and I'm unhappy. Why? Because you didn't do your inner drive. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. The universe gave you that fire and you didn't use it. It's never too
So
late, but you don't want to realize that when you're older.
you're older, right? Can you living with regret?
Yeah.
I understand. Okay. What's the story behind your favorite song you've written, performed? Walk us through memory lane.
Okay, can I talk about a song that I haven't released yet?
Absolutely.
Okay. I have a new song coming out called Fire Escape. I love that song because I was going for dreamy vibes. I was literally on my fire escape writing this song
Yeah.
and it was raining. It was like a light rain and it was just like, and then my paper was like getting wet. And then I don't know, like it's just something so misty and beautiful about it. I felt the magic coming to me.
Really?
Yeah. It was a moment. I just started writing and humming,
Yeah.
and it just really seeped in together. And I love that song. I'm really excited for it to come out.
When is it dropping, by the way?
So I'm actually gonna drop it in 3 days.
Yeah.
But I just have to get it approved and everything.
3 days, yeah.
3 days until you gotta wait for it to come out. Like, I think that's something that's gonna be pretty universal. I feel like a lot of people will enjoy that one because it has a different vibe from all my other songs. I've always had this yearning for,
Connection, maybe?
yes, a yearning for a really deep, genuine connection.
Okay.
And like I feel like that song is just me like really portraying that yearning.
Connection.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking to whatever entity
Mhm.
like I'm longing for, whatever it is that I created in my head, like that. And it just like, and it's beautiful because it's just so vulnerable, you know? Yeah. And being vulnerable is so, like, let's talk about vulnerability real quick.
Vulnerability?
Like,
Let's do that.
so I feel like a lot of people are so scared to be vulnerable. Like, and for me, I'm not scared of being vulnerable, but it just hurts when it's not reciprocated. Yeah, like,
Mm.
you know what I mean? For me, I have no problem. Hey, I really like, for example, let's say you really like someone, be like, hey, I really like you. I have no problem being vulnerable towards that person, even if they don't feel the same way.
Mhm.
I think it's even hot if they feel like that towards me and I don't feel the same way. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
listen, your vulnerability is getting to me. Don't get
Right.
me wrong. I'm feeling your emotions. It's sexy as hell, but it's just not for me right
Yeah.
now.
Do you prefer people in your life who are more vulnerable in general, or what type of vulnerability are you looking for when it comes to vulnerability?
Just being upfront about your feelings without worrying about what I have to say or respond to it. Being authentically yourself, being vulnerable is a way to show me that you don't care about how you're viewed to me or the world, but you just want to show, like, you just want to not even show, you just want to say how you're feeling because that's what's going on through your heart and the mind. This is truly how I feel. I don't care what you have to say. I don't care if you love me back. I don't care if you don't love me back.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I got what I said out there because that's me,
Do you feel like you're being vulnerable when you make music?
100%. Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah.
100%. I feel like my music is only attractive when I'm vulnerable. Otherwise, there's no
Just
substance.
writing words on a paper.
There's
Into some.
just no substance, and everyone else is doing that. I'm trying to be different, right?
Mm.
So that's something that's going to stand me out because I don't care about being vulnerable. I'm going to be vulnerable with my audience. I'm going to show them, like, listen, this is genuinely me, whether you're a softie or not. Yeah, I'm a simp. Big deal.
Would you rather be boring or ugly?
I'd rather be ugly because what is the whole point of being pretty without being fun? There's so many pretty things in this world, but then where's the fun? Pretty can only go so long. Would you rather be boring or good looking?
That's a really hard question. Looks can get you in so many doors, and people won't even want to hear about you unless they like what they're seeing.
Right.
But then I don't think people would stay if you are boring. There has to be some substance, something fun
Yeah.
about. I'd rather be And it also depends on what your sense of boring is. Like, what is boring to
Boring is
you?
meaning like you don't got no personality, you got no identity. You're kind of just like there. You're just there. Your
Okay.
energy is just present. You're
Hmm.
probably a pessimist,
Hmm.
like a little
Yeah.
negative, just kind of like looking at the bad and everything instead
Right.
of like being positive.
Right.
Just, just kind of just a pessimist,
Okay. I
just
can see that.
without knowing yourself.
So if we're going by that definition, I'd rather be ugly, honestly.
I can never, I'm boring myself at this point. I'm so boring. I just cannot even stand to be alone and nobody else wants to be with me. I'd rather be ugly because plastic surgery is out there.
You can fix yourself. Let me get back to my questions here. How do you decide which songs to share with the world and which to keep for yourself?
Oof. So I got some songs that I feel like I don't know if I'm gonna put out there just
Yeah.
because I feel like they're just a little too personal. And if it's involving someone else, I will think
Mm,
about whether I'm gonna put it out there or not. And also, if it's a song about something that can be a little bit controversial, I don't know if I'd want to put it out there. But it'll just be for myself or be an unreleased song.
can you describe your first live performance? What did you learn from it?
Okay, so truthfully, my first live performance was me. But if we're talking about any live
It can be
performance,
anything. Be anything. It doesn't have to be just music.
okay, so I was always into performing arts
Hmm.
ever since I was young. My first actual role was my freshman year of high school. I played Gary Coleman from Avenue Q.
What you talking about, Willis?
And literally, like, there was no like people of color at the
Hmm.
time. So I was the most considered people of color.
Right. Okay.
Me being like the most considered
Yeah.
people of color. Hey, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, I'm ethnic. You know,
You're self conscious about it?
I in the beginning I was like, why was I
Right.
chosen for Gary Joe? It was very.
Perfect.
They were just like, we have no one else to play it, and I was just like, okay. I just went with it. Nobody really knew I was Gary Coleman. They thought I was playing a farmer.
Farmer.
Yeah, because I was dressed in overalls, and no one really got the joke. That was my first live performance. I loved it. I got to play something not what I look like. I was here for it. Like, I'm here to play whatever you want. So that was my first live performance. After that, I kind of like went and I was a party clown.
Mm.
Well, I was doing plays after that for a while, and then I did party clown work, so I was always live performing. At that point, I got pretty comfortable
Mm.
performing in front of a large group of people, doing magic shows and stuff for kids. Doing that got me really comfortable in front of a big crowd. But yeah, now I feel like I'm very comfortable live performing, and I feel like I can bring the energy.
How has your music evolved over the course of time?
So it hasn't been that much time, but it definitely has evolved. I've just learned more about myself. I know that I'm more versatile. I'm going to be different every time. I'm going to show up different. I'm going to
Yeah.
be unpredictable. So that's how it's pretty much evolved. You know, nothing, what's it called? Yeah, I wouldn't say I learned that I'm very unpredictable. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to come up with something new every time. That's something exciting that has evolved.
I want to get into a little bit more about you personally and your challenges that you go through within this pursuit of music. What has been the most challenging part of your music career thus far?
It's the exposure.
In what way?
It's getting yourself out there. For me, I think the execution is not hard. Like me coming
Like making
here,
the song.
making the
Right.
song, bringing the music video to life, none of that is hard. It's more of just getting myself out there because I feel different every day. I'm not perfect. I still have thoughts in my head. Always like to post on my Instagram. I don't always like to promote myself. I don't always want to plaster my face everywhere. I just like, so it's like, that part is the hardest part, I feel like, promoting myself. I think it's the inner pride that gets in my way.
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Oh, do I really have to post today?" And I feel like, what if I don't wanna post today? I wanna be private. It'd be nice if I had a social media manager to do it
That
for
would.
me,
Right.
so I don't always have to see my face or be in control of that. I feel like I don't know if I can do it. Now I have to post a new post.
To see that, that's cool.
Yeah, I just have to work on it. That's
Mm.
something I'm still working on. But yeah, we'll
And
see.
especially as you climb and become more popular, you're only gonna have to do it even more, and everybody's gonna see it. So I really do see what you're saying.
Being popular is not as important to me personally,
Yeah.
but it's important to my career.
Right.
I don't care about how many people are watching, but I do care about it being my career and inspiring others. I would do this just for fun. I wouldn't even it's not about publicity or popularity. It's not a popularity contest for me. It's more about I want to do this for a living. I want people to look up to me. I want to be able to travel the world and help other people if I can. But I have to do that that's connected with promoting myself.
Yeah. Right. How do you handle criticism or negativity within the music realm? What do you?
Like I said, I have the idea that art is subjective. So I don't really care if someone doesn't like my music because I'm just like, that's a you problem. That's not something I have to worry about because there will be an audience out there for my music, right? I'm like, okay, obviously that's not your style. I'll talk to one person and be like, hey, I actually really liked your song. And another person be like, all right, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, it doesn't really like get to me because
Good.
it's just, like I said, like it's very much subjective. Everyone has their own taste and no judgment on that. I might not be everyone's cup of tea, and I'm very understanding of that. I don't really take that personally. I do like to take critiques. I do enjoy when people are honest with me and give me honest feedback about something that's not subjective. Maybe the audio could have been like this, or maybe your voice is a little bit shaky. I do inner critiques because it helps you see from outside the box. I welcome the
Criticism.
exactly. I welcome it. Yeah.
Good. Okay. What moment in your career are you most proud of?
Oh, I would say I'm most proud.
And it doesn't have to be necessarily an achievement or an award. It can be also personal, just if you've reached a landmark or you've overcame a certain particular fear, anything in general that you're just proud of.
I would say I'm most proud of just my timeline.
Mm.
I told myself I was gonna make my music video officially in June, and I got it done. Everything that I've said, I've stuck to it. And that is something I'm really proud of because I've had a lot of people in my life give me empty promises, including my parents. I've always dealt with people being inconsistent.
Mm.
I don't ever want to be like that.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why it's so hard for people to be consistent. All you have to do is show up. You literally said you were going to do it, just do it. So if I say I'm going to do something, I don't break my promise. I try not to. Nobody's perfect, but I try my best. Yeah.
It's a good quality about you.
Thank you.
Right. How do you connect with your fans? And how do they influence your music, if they influence it at all?
When I get to that point when I have a fan base, like
I
how
think you
to
have some sort of a fan base now.
yeah,
Can
say I
right?
feel like my friends are my biggest cheerleaders and my fans. And there's like a few people that have came to me and like told me, I love your song. You don't understand like
Right.
the warmness I felt from that. Like I was like, wow, like I actually touched somebody who like I made an impact on someone who
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Personally, yeah.
Yeah. Even people from high school hit me up and say, wow, like, yeah, like I loved your song. I had never even like spoke to them like that. And I'm like, whoa, thanks. Like now they want to start projects with me, and I'm like, whoa, like okay, like
Yeah.
wow, like I didn't like I didn't like it was already like a start of something, a
Yeah.
small start, but it's showing that I'm going somewhere with it.
I asked, how do you connect with your fans and how do they influence your music?
So, like, how I'll connect with them is I'll try my best to respond to them, and how they will connect with my music is by listening, like, listen deeply to my lyrics because my lyrics is really the highlight of my songs, and I mean every word of it. None of it is for show. When I write, it's to connect with someone, to connect with the world. That's how I'll connect with them.
Is there a particular message or emotion that you want your fans to feel when they listen to your music?
Yeah, I want them to feel like I'm a regular person. I want them to feel like, wow, she's genuine. I want them to feel like I'm not this special being.
Yeah,
I want them to feel like, wow, like this is someone talking to me like a friend. I want them to feel like I'm their best friend without me having to be there.
it's beautiful. If you could perform anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Oh my God, that's such a fun question. Oh, I love like traveling and just like thinking about anywhere else I'd be. Oh, I would love to perform in Egypt
Egypt. Why?
because my dad, he's Egyptian, and like that culture, like Egyptian culture, it's so, and it's like growing up in that culture, they look at me and they're like, you're a little rebellious, but I want to be able to connect with some of the women don't really have the chance to be who they really are. So I want to be that person for Egyptians because it's so hard to be free. And I feel like that's something that have the opportunity to be. No one's really fully free, but I have the opportunity to be free and a lot of people don't. So I want to be able to do that for people of other cultures.
I like that. I had a couple more questions for you, and then I'm pretty much wrapped up with my questions. How do you overcome fear, putting yourself coming from a conservative background?
We touched on that already,
Yeah.
but basically just overcoming the fear of being conservative. Like I said, like I grew up in two different cultures. Like I grew up with my mom for 13 years and I lived in Puerto Rico for some time, but also I was an Islamic girl. At one point I had to, wear the hijab to school and,
You were a hijab?
yeah, I wore a
Wow.
hijab.
I didn't know.
Yeah, for some time, but then at some point I was taking it off when I got to the school base, being conservative and stuff like that.
Freedom is a huge concept that's important to you.
Yeah, I think freedom is something I seriously value
Why?
because I don't ever want to be controlled by society, by any person that comes into my life. I feel like I've grown up that way and it's just not at all who I am. It's not someone I can be, and I won't be my best self if I am controlled by someone or something. So that's something I just cannot handle. That's a little no tolerance rule on that one.
I can see. What's the end goal for your project?
The end goal is to basically just being able to live inspiring others and financially be able to support myself, inspiring others and touring and traveling the world, doing what I love to do, which is music, content creating, all that. So that's the end goal.
Um, I think you're gonna make it.
Ah,
The
so good
tools.
to hear. Yeah.
I do have one final question for you. Who is Yasmin?
How I would describe myself? I would say I am a person of freedom. I am a person of spontaneity, like, versatility, and I'm just an entity to bring to this world for comfort, for happiness. Like who I am can be subjective.
What do you represent?
What I represent is freedom. What I represent is fearlessness. I represent just free spirited and just positivity, like, and peace. Like I really am, I love a good balance in life. I'm not an extremist. I like things steady. I'd call myself a hippie. No, modern day 2024 hippie.
Anything that you want to tell your audience at all?
I'm really excited for the upcoming projects and I hope you guys enjoy everything that I put out there. I will try to be as authentic and genuine as I can with everyone. I hope that whatever I bring to the world gives you comfort and something to hold on to. Know that you're special, you have light, and you should shine too. It's not just about me, it's about everyone. And my music is to inspire you. So don't just look up to me, look up to yourself and use my music to find that light within you. That's what I would like to share.
There are so many things that I've learned about you within this podcast. Though we can't talk about everything, I do think that your fans can not only take away so much from your music, but from you as a person. A lot of people can learn, especially with the route that you're going through and the fearlessness and relentlessness that you're going about it. And I think people can definitely learn from that. So I admire that. And this is pretty fun. I
Yeah.
enjoyed this interview.
We gotta do this again. Donovan, this is your first time doing a
Yeah, this is my
podcast.
first thing.
We gotta do this
Appreciate it.
again. We'll talk about future projects. We're at that moment in our lives where
Same.
we're able to really, I think we're both on the same wavelength because you were telling me that you're on your solitude moment. We've both been taking our time to be by ourselves and really evaluate who we want in our life, who we
Absolutely.
don't, what we value, and
Right.
what we want for our future. We had a lot of conversations about that.
Absolutely.
What's something you feel like you got from this, from all our talks and your moment of solitude? Like, what have you picked up that, like, that you've learned from that? Like, always just kind of like social, like, you always had like that group, but like now I've just seen you just like really just be careful and like really
Yeah.
been on your writing type of time. So, like, what have you learned from that? What made you, like, you know,
Get into that.
yeah.
It's a good question. There was a couple things. I first didn't become onto this until I decided that I needed a change within my life. You get to a certain point where things keep happening the same way, and you got to make a decision on, do you want that to continue or do you want things to change? I made the decision that I wanted things to change. So in that pursuit, I had to realize, well, what's going to change? I had to start with me. So I became a little more intentional with everything involved with me, what I do, who I'm surrounded with, how I exist in the world, and what I give to the world. That was really the foundation of the change. And then within the pursuit itself, trying to bring these people around me who I did consider my friends and my loved ones and stuff, I had to understand that not all of them were within that same pursuit. So keeping some people around, I would have to be keeping some tendencies around, some habits that I didn't want around me. And throughout that, it's just started to process of elimination. So that's really it without talking too much about it.
What was the moment that you felt like you needed? Okay. What was the changing point? Like, what was the turning point? What was your breaking point? Like, hey, I don't think I can do this anymore.
That's funny. I'm gonna be a little vulnerable with you. Just talked about vulnerability.
Yeah.
Um, there was a period of time where I felt like I kept hurting people, and I just got tired of the process. Hurting people, then people hurt
So,
me.
so you were the villain in this.
I was kind of the villain.
Okay.
I knew at some point that had to stop. It's hard to see that you're the villain if you don't know exactly what you're doing to portray yourself as a villain. I'm sure some of us don't really think that we have bad tendencies about ourselves until we really look within ourselves. So I didn't really know everything until I started to reevaluate myself, what I do. I was tired of hurting people. If I can go to one instance that made me change, I actually got hurt in the same way that I would hurt other people. It was a wake up call. Like, damn, like this is what I'm doing to people. This is what I'm.
Yeah.
That was the true start of it.
Interesting.
What about you? How did you start your journey to more self awareness and intention?
I feel like it was just a change, a lot of
Mm,
change in my life that made me more intentional.
yeah.
It made me have more depth because it was a lot of change and I had to search within myself, like who I was and self-awareness. I developed such a self-awareness being with the different people, learning about how to be around people really gave me self-awareness.
Mm,
Knowing that if I want to be a certain person, I have to change things about me. Maybe at one point I gossip. Now I know that successful people, people of higher value do not gossip. That's
yeah,
just an example. If you want to look at who you want to be and are you doing the things that who you
yes.
want to be, that doesn't align, I'm changing that.
Yes.
You know what I
I
mean?
think that's such a great point that you brought up because I feel like that's the first step into being who you want to become, identifying the person you want to become, and then seeing what habits and traits align with that person. And if
Exactly.
you're not doing that, then you know where the change begins.
Exactly.
So I definitely agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of great topics here today. I feel like a lot of people can relate to everything that we have to say. And like, really, I just hope people can learn and like
Yes.
really feel empowered after hearing us talk today because I feel like we just gone through a lot of experiences that helped us know these things. I hope whoever's watching is impacted in some way and picked up something from today. Everyone has a light, everyone has gifts. Look within yourself and see who you want to be and do it. Do it, man. Like, you don't got time. Like, time is too precious. Now, my biggest fear is time passing me by, and I'm not going to let it happen.
Right. That's one of my biggest fears as well. This podcast has definitely been in, informative. And even if you're not a music person, it doesn't have
Exactly.
to be just about music, but just anything in general.
Hmm.
Do whatever it is you want to do. Music, art, any talent you have, any interest, pursue it. Uh,
Exactly.
I feel like that's one of the biggest messages that you've exuded through this interview. Fearlessness,
Yeah,
relentless. Do what you want to do.
absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, we really covered it all. Thank you so much, Don, for interviewing me today.
So I appreciate this interaction. It was great.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
know, I know. And tap into Chats Unplugged. I came up with this last minute. I told my cover artist, Threat. See, she literally got it. I asked AI to help me with the name, and Chats Unplugged is the name. So, period. You just gotta do it.
Right.
Do it.
You do it, y'all.
Running on the weekend, sorry you can't reach me. Sometimes I be picky, I be moving low key. Say they like my sound and they got me
Right?
feeling